Mr. Chairman, during the committee's February 26th oversight hearing on the administration's family separation policy, I entered several documents into the record that were turned over by HHS detailing a high number of alleged sexual assaults on unaccompanied children in the custody of ORR. And since the February 26th hearing, I've been attempting to work with ORR to identify changes that need to be made to ensure the safety for unaccompanied children being held at facilities across the country. On April 22nd, ORR assisted in arranging a visit and tour of the Homestead facility, my second visit to the facility. The staff was accommodating during my visit. Tour was extremely informative. And following up on the tour, Director Hayes, following up on the tour, I sent you a letter on June 7th with several questions and requests for documents. I just received a response yesterday evening that my letter had been received. I'm grateful for that, and that the information was being compiled. Mr. Chairman, I ask unanimous consent to submit my letter dated June 7th to Director Hayes for the record.
Without objection.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Director Hayes, during my visit to Homestead, the staff there confirmed that operating a facility like that costs 3 times as much as operating a permanent facility, and unlike temporary influx facilities, permanent facilities are subject to federal, state, and local laws meant to protect the welfare of children. So what I'd like to know, what I ask in my letter, and what I'd like you to tell us this morning is whether ORR is in the process of finding less expensive alternatives to facilities like Homestead for unaccompanied minors. And I guess fundamentally the question is are you in the process of closing the Homestead facility?
Thank you for the question, Congressman. I want to first give you my commitment that we will respond to that letter just as quickly as we can. You're welcome, sir. I will say that, as I mentioned in my testimony, I want to thank you and the leadership of the House of Representatives for helping get the supplemental. One of the main priorities of myself, Assistant Secretary Lynn Johnson, and Secretary Azar is to absolutely increase the number of permanent state licensed beds available for receiving of children from Customs and Border Protection at HHS. That is something that we are equally committed to at both the political and the career leadership of ORR.
And do you have any information in the possibility of Homestead providing information on when the Homestead temporary facility will be shut down?
So as of this morning, sir, our census at Homestead is down to 829. We have not designated any additional children to Homestead since July 3rd, and we are in the process of drawing that down, given the higher discharge numbers that we're seeing, as well as the lower referrals coming across the board.
Let me ask you some questions that I asked in my letter, but perhaps you can answer them. The Homestead facility staff stated that General Dynamics has contracted with the facility to provide sexual abuse training, and I had asked for copies of the contract with General Dynamics and details regarding that curriculum. Is that something that you can provide to us quickly?
I don't know if I can provide it quickly, sir, but I'll certainly go back to our team and look into it.
In 6 weeks, so okay. It's no longer quickly, but if you could help with that, I'd appreciate it.
I will check into that, sir.
Also, the Homestead facility staff informed me that DHS, ORR, and Comprehensive Health Services include the Prison Rape Elimination Act, the PREA, and other standards in their contract provisions. We've been trying to get a copy of the contract between the government, and Comprehensive Health Services. We'd also like to see copies of the subcontracts just to see the extent to which those requirements are incorporated. Can we get copies of those contracts?
I will go back to the department and we will look into that, sir. If I may add one thing, it's not just GDIT that does some of the oversight. There was also federal oversight. There was state and local official oversight. It's a very broad, multi-pronged approach.
There's state and local when they submit to them, which gets me to my last question.
Yes, sir.
The Homestead facility staff gave me a briefing about the database that keeps track, a national database that keeps track of every allegation and serious incident that occurs at that facility and throughout the country, every facility housing unaccompanied minors. It tracks when a staff person is fired. It tracks what happens when allegations are made. Can you provide the committee with information from the database on how many assault cases have resulted in the termination of an employee nationwide? How many were resolved in disciplinary actions? What disciplinary actions were taken against the staff person? And most importantly, how many cases of sexual abuse are being investigated and are ongoing nationally?
We will look at that letter, sir, and respond as quickly and as we are able. I will note for this committee's information that there are 3 different types of sexual misconduct. There is inappropriate sexual behavior, sexual harassment, and sexual abuse. And I will note that the number of actual sexual abuse is very small and most often involves children amongst children. But we will work to get that information as quickly
Right,
as we can, sir.
as I said at our, Mr. Chairman, as I said at our last hearing, one case is too much.
I 100%
And
agree,
please-
sir.
Right, and please don't try to make us feel better by suggesting that sexual harassment is somehow less objectionable, that we should tolerate sexual harassment.
That was not my intention, sir.
appreciate that.
We're
Thank
in
you.
agreement.